The episode opens on Agrabah city streets. A huge clock tower dominates the skyline. At its base, Princess Jasmine and her tiger Raja are hanging out on some rooftops. She wants to go explore the city, but he wants to stay up here. Just then, Aladdin swings by on his magic carpet and asks if she wants to go for a ride. Of course she does, and soon they're soaring above the clouds with him at the controls. But suddenly the carpet sputters and crashes down into a nearby fountain. Turns out that the reason why is that Jafar has been siphoning off all of the magic in the city and using it to keep himself young forever. So now the carpet is out of power, and they have to find another way to get to Jafar's palace. As they walk through the souk, we see Abu pickpocketing some coins from a merchant. When he gets caught, Aladdin quickly distracts the merchant with his quick-witted lies. Then he apologizes to Abu and reminds him that stealing isn't the best way to get money. Meanwhile, Jasmine runs into a kindly old woman who gives her some free perfume and compliments her on being such a beautiful person inside and out. As they leave, the woman turns into the great and powerful genie of the lamp and explains that she had to disguise herself in order to escape Jafar's detection. And since she senses that Aladdin and Jasmine are good people, she offers to help them defeat Jafar once and for all. So now with the genie's power, Aladdin and Jasmine are zooming through the streets in a hot air balloon. However, Jafar's henchmen show up in some seriously badass clockwork airships and open fire with their cannons. The genie creates force fields to protect everyone, but they can only last so long, so Aladdin has an idea. He tells the genie to take the balloon down low so that they can slip between the buildings and out of sight. And it works like a charm. Just then, the balloon starts taking on damage. One of the airships managed to get behind them, and they need somewhere to hide. Luckily, Aladdin spots an opening and they squeeze through just in time. Now in a dark and narrow cave, Aladdin thanks the genie for her help. And she tells him that the real reward for defeating Jafar will be the chance to rule Agrabah and bring it into the modern age. But first, they need a plan. Suddenly, Abu finds a loose wire hanging from the balloon and starts chewing on it. When he does, a small device activates. It was a listening device planted in the balloon by one of Jafar's henchmen. Now they know that Jafar is planning to use a super powerful lamp to amplify his magic powers. And the only way to stop him is to sneak into his heavily guarded palace. The genie suggests that they hack into the palace security system, but she needs some spare parts to build a decoder. Luckily, Agrabah is full of gadgets and gizmos. There's got to be something they can use. Meanwhile, at the palace, Jafar is having a meeting with his advisors, telling them how much he loves the sweet nectar of youth and how he plans to use the super lamp to make himself even more powerful than the Sultan. Back in the cave, Aladdin and Jasmine are examining a pile of junk when suddenly they hear a voice coming from a nearby lamppost. It's a robot spider. And after some quick hacking, Jasmine is able to download its memory banks and discover that the palace is protected by a series of lasers and pressure plates. But if they can disable the mainframe, they should be able to turn off all of the security measures. The robot spider is too big to fit through the grates in the palace walls, so the genie turns herself into a tiny mouse and slips inside. Meanwhile, Aladdin and Jasmine are working on a remote control car that would make short work of all those laser beams. However, they need some oil to get it working properly. And the only place around here that sells oil is run by Jafar's cronies. Aladdin sends Abu in to do the shopping, but it doesn't take long for him to get caught. The owner pulls out some handcuffs, but Aladdin quickly distracts him with a well-placed kick. Meanwhile, Jasmine is hit by a sudden realization. In order to enter the mainframe room, they're going to need a password. Luckily, she has a way of getting it. Using her royal status, she calls up the palace switchboard and asks to speak to the head engineer. She pretends to be the Sultan's daughter and asks him to tell her the palace security code. He hesitates at first, but eventually relents and gives her the code. Then he hangs up before either of them can say goodbye. With that, Jasmine hands the remote control car to Aladdin. He drives it down the street and past the first line of defense, the laser gates. They still have a few other obstacles to overcome, however, like the second set of laser gates and the patrolling guards. To deal with these, the genie turns into a steampunk police car. Using its siren and flashing lights, she scares away the guards while Aladdin uses a grappling hook to swing them across the moat. Finally, they reach the entrance to the palace. Here, the genie changes into a giant clock tower, allowing them to climb to the top and finally enter the building. Meanwhile, Jafar is talking to the Sultan, who has come to the palace to negotiate the return of his daughter. Jafar pretends to be helpful, offering to let the Sultan have Jasmine's hand in marriage if he agrees to make Jafar his heir apparent. But the Sultan refuses and demands that Jafar release Jasmine immediately. That makes Jafar angry, and he reveals his true colors. He tells the Sultan that he is nothing more than a puppet, and that Agrabah will soon become his own personal playground. Below, Aladdin sneaks through the vents and eventually arrives at the mainframe room. He needs to upload the virus onto the hard drive in order to disable the palace security. Just then, Ab pops his head out of the vent. He couldn't get to the mainframe because the door was locked. But luckily, Aladdin was able to pick the lock and everything is going according to plan until suddenly the lights turn on, and they respawn. It's the robotic spider, and it wasn't as easy to reprogram as Jasmine thought. It attacks them, but Aladdin quickly disables it with a well-aimed kick. Now that the coast is clear, Aladdin sneaks into the mainframe room. As he uploads the virus, he hears the sound of police cars. The genie must be coming in hot. Then suddenly, Jafar appears and blasts Aladdin with some powerful magic. Just barely dodging the attack, Aladdin knocks over a bucket of water, which shorts out the computer and causes the virus to activate. Jafar realizes what happened and tries to flee, but it's too late. The palace security turns on him and begins to attack. Guards swarm him and pull him into a waiting jail cell. As they arrive, the genie transforms back into her human form and congratulates Aladdin on a job well done. Then she reminds him that there's still a lot of work to be done rebuilding the city. But for now, it's time to celebrate. At the end of the day, Agrabah is saved. The citizens cheer as the genie flies overhead. On her hot air balloon, she winks at Aladdin and Jasmine and disappears into the sunset. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.